Welcome to Breaking Ground. I'm your host, Devin Kolka. On this show, we meet with the region's leaders in the business, real estate, construction industry. Today's guest is Scott Maskin, CEO and Chief Fund Coordinator over at Sun Nation Solar. We're really excited to have Scott on today. Welcome to the show. So we're here with Scott Maskin, CEO, Chief Fund Officer, Wardrobe Assistant Manager of Sun Nation, region's largest, best solar company there is by far. You know me, I'm always a big fan, always give you a ton of credit, but it's well deserved. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Devin. Yeah. Listen, the Coco organization has been. Listen, you guys embraced renewable energy before anybody else did. So you guys, it was a good match right in the very beginning.
We've always been a big fan of renewable energy, and I think there's a lot that the future is going to bring for the industry and renewable energy. But talk to me a little bit, like early on solar to where we are today, the difference of where it was to what it is now. Just touch on that real quick.
Yeah, so I'm doing this now 18 years. We've dominated the Long Island region. We've stayed true to just the Long Island region. We've had opportunities to expand in other locations, but we're so good here. We're so regionalized here, and that was a big thing. Like as in the 2014-ish time, the nationals started coming in, and they tried to just push solar leasing and push residential solar. And the good part is, when the tide rises, all the ships go up with it. But, they just left destruction of the whole regional approach that I'm a Long Islander. You're my neighbor. Okay. I'm going to see your kids at soccer practice. I want to do the right thing. Right. I'm not that. Here's my cell phone number. Yeah. So what has not changed is that in 2001, when I first started Sun Nation, we very core principles. Do the right thing. If it feels good, do it. Follow through. Be responsive. If you make a mistake, own up to it. This is like business 101, and it's so funny because as time goes on, people complicate business so much, and if you just stand by those core principles, you're going to be fine. The industry has changed rapidly over the last 18 years. Product has gotten better, more efficient. The ways we deploy solar is much more efficient and trustworthy. And, knock on wood, Isaiah just came through, and I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 350,000 solar panels deployed on the island, and not one of them moved. So, safety. Yeah, safety.
And touching on the storm, I was coming home I'm staying with Danielle's parents right now. We're in the middle of purchasing a home, and you got this big clunky generator just roaring throughout the night. And every time I looked at her and say, "This is why we're going with the Tesla battery pack. This is why we're going with the Tesla battery pack." It's in the beginning, I think it needed to prove itself. I think it's here now, and yeah, it's helping big time.
So I'm a huge listen. One thing about Long Islanders, we are power hogs. We do not like to be. There's no discomfort. If we can't have our food now, we want it delivered 15 minutes ago. We're comfort people, and it's not until you don't have power until you realize how much you rely on power. And it's not just younger kids. It's families that, oh my God, how am I going to deal with these kids without power? They can't power up their PlayStation and stuff like that. But moreover, it's really hit the business community now.
Absolutely.
So listen, I'm a Sandy guy. Listen, I didn't have power for 13 days. Battery storage wasn't a thing after Sandy. So I'm one of those guys. I have a big clunking generator on the side of my house. But, with my family, with me, I want air conditioning. I want my pool pump. I don't even want to know that power's out. Yeah, everything. And it's funny because during Isaiah, I looked in the backyard and the string lights were on, the pool was lit up, running, heated. The kids are in the backyard. They're watching TV on the back of the house. The whole rest of the community is dark, except for our little piece of paradise. But what we did find out, first of all, to give, power reliability is a big thing. But I got to give, PSE&G is getting slammed right now on their response. Granted, okay. LIPA got slammed after Sandy. The core problem here is that our grid, our electrical infrastructure is archaic.
Mm-hmm.
It's old. It doesn't work. From a renewable standpoint, this grid was designed to go one way. Power goes out. Now, in my business, we're sending power back through the grid. So that's a whole nother problem. But, before we get into battery storage and stuff, I just want to say, the guys at PSG, they're working their ass off. Every time you could do all the tree trimming you want. The next when a Category 2 with sustained winds of 80 miles an hour comes through here for any extended period, you will see power out for a month.
So we talked about this on a different show with somebody else, but why not come in and put those lines underground now?
So that's money, man. So it's the right way to do it. When you're building they've been building new subdivisions, residential subdivisions with underground wiring for the last 25 years. It's the transmission. It's getting all the established neighborhoods and getting everything buried. But now you have environmental people, disturbing the ground. You can't make everybody happy. Ultimately, there's got to be some sort of a forward-thinking model of burying the storage. It's going to have to happen, but to just, the politicians, there's an inquiry about this. There's an inquiry about that. We're going to pull PSE&G's contract. PSE&G in the last 5 years has done a fantastic job of restoring confidence to the homeowners and to the businesses. Listen, I know this is fact because this is in my wheelhouse. For the last 2 years, that's 2.2 million ratepayers. Okay, so there's 1.1 million ratepayers on Long Island. So for 2 years, 2.2 million ratepayers have not experienced an outage of more than 15 minutes. 99.75% of 2.2 million people. So, but it does happen, and that's why, leading into the conversation about power walls and storage, I've been preaching this to a lot of my colleagues in business, and everybody's working from home. That is the new norm.
That's why this is
right.
different
man.
than usual.
Yeah, so I always said, could you imagine Sandy, 13 days of that power? Now throw COVID in, and everybody said, oh my God, that would have been chaos, right? Okay, so now we have COVID, and we just had Isaiah. But Isaiah was a wimp, all right? It just came in for an hour or so. It wiped some trees, and I know people were uncomfortable and stuff, but it was the tap on the brakes for people, for my colleagues in industry and people that have 200 people working from home. I was talking to somebody that we both know. I says, so let me ask you a question. If the power went out, I know you're working remotely for the last 10 weeks. If the power went out at your house, what would happen? He goes, well, I have a generator. I says, all right, does your COO? I don't know. Well, does your CFO? Does your leadership team? What is, I get it, that you made it so that everybody can, log in their pajamas and get a day's work done. They can't do shit if there's no power. And not, to say, well, if there's no power, there's no internet is not true. You have cellular hotspots. You have, during Sandy, I had my internet ran flawlessly for 12 days, and I was on a generator. So my entire neighborhood was coming to my house to do their FEMA reports. So it's not a given that if you don't have power, you're not going to have internet service. And now all of a sudden, maybe the light went off that I just invested $750,000 in making sure that my business could operate remotely. Maybe it makes sense to give some power liability and solar with power walls and stuff and solar with storage to make sure that not only can they work from home, but they have the power to work from home.
I think corporations are going to invest further money into making sure it's reliable.
If they don't, then they're going to get what they deserve. Because at some point, I don't think that, we're in construction. Yeah. We're a real hands-on business. We're out in the fields and stuff like that. Yeah. So, during the COVID, I kept hearing that we're all in this together. We're really not all in this together. The law firm can work remotely as long as the courts are open. The accounting firms can work remotely as long as they can dial into their server, all right? Yeah, they may not be able to do site visits to their client's house, but for all intents and purposes, we don't work that way.
You're not going on a roof.
No.
Putting up panels, even when you might have should have been, but that's a whole nother story.
But no, I mean, that's really, in our business, we're real hands-on. Guys that grew up, in the trades like us, we're solvers face-to-face. it's very difficult to put out a fire in 3x3 boxes on a screen as opposed to everybody in the room. Here's the problem. What's the solution? Let's get it all. How does this affect you? How does this affect you? And it's all real time kind of stuff. The guys that if somebody doesn't heed what just happened, well, shame on you, man. If a solar system, let's say the client has solar, because there's a combination. Storage is great, but storage is finite. Like when you do a Tesla Powerwall on your house, or in your business or whatever, we always preach it as it's a whole house solution, but you have to have a relationship with your power. If you're going to have, your daughter plugs a curling iron in and you do this and the microwave's going to stuff, your battery's going to be depleted. The nice thing is this awesome app that shows you, hey, here's my battery, and at this rate, I have 12 hours, I have 15 hours, I have 2 days. When you take a Tesla Powerwall and then you couple it with solar, this was for me, for my business, it was the perfect thing to happen, because not only did we lose power for 3 or 4 days for a lot of people, but my customers that had solar that was replenishing the batteries for the night, for during the evening and stuff like that. It was a home run.
Now, people powering their entire house, or are they picking selectively what they want power? What are you seeing people doing?
So we look at the Tesla Powerwall as a whole home solution, the same way that you would buy a generator, a large generator. The reason why I say that is because when you try to isolate circuits, there are certainly some important circuits to isolate. Your refrigerator, your freezer, smoke detectors, your oil burner, things like that. But you can do that with your circuit breakers. Okay? When we start to remove circuits out of the regular and put it into an emergency panel, well, now the cost to move all that stuff around gets pounded on. Then it's, well, what do you want? How long will this last if I have these 5 circuits? And it slows up the whole decision, as opposed to saying, listen, here's the story. You could turn on everything that you want, okay? There are some larger loads that the Tesla Powerwall will not support. Like a 5-ton air conditioner or something like that. It's not going to support that. It's going to shut down. But for the most part, if you spend 15 minutes at your circuit breaker panel and you put red tape on, everything that you want to work, that you need to work, and you just shut everything else off, you're good to go. And then when power comes back on, and it's going to tell you you're back on grid power, you flip those things back on. If you want to just leave everything on, all right, not even touch a circuit breaker, and just be mindful. You turn the lights off, and when you're not in it, you unplug shit that you're not using, even all the ghost stuff that we talk about. But you can listen, I do Tesla Powerwalls with single Powerwalls. That's 13,500 kilowatt hours. Then we double them, triple them, quadruple them. So there's a lot of, we can create a lot of powers. Funny story. So my crew is working on a job site. It was months and months ago, and it was the first 4-unit Powerwall installation that we had done. And I'm like, oh, I got to get PSE&G. They're going to want to see this for the rebates and stuff. So I get to the house, and I smell weed. And I'm like, oh, my God. I can't. My guys are down there. I can't believe this. I go running downstairs. What are you guys doing? What's the matter with you? Like, what are you talking about? Turns out the guy put the 4 Powerwalls in for his grow house. Wow. So I was like, okay, PSE&G, you're not taking pictures of this one. This isn't the installation for you. But we're literally, we got down there, and that's, listen, use the power whatever way you want to use it.
Whatever you want to do. Yeah.
So, but listen, business is great. Listen,
on average, how long is the power really will last you? A day, 2 days, a week, 12
Yeah,
days?
a solid day or two, depending on how you.
And that's without the solar. But if you have the solar to go with it, you'll recharge that
depending,
battery.
but you can't. Again, during Sandy, if you remember, we had shitty weather right after that.
Snowstorm right after.
Yeah, right after. So now, the Powerwall would have helped, but it wouldn't have charged as well.
But you know what to expect because you have an app on your phone and you see, okay, I got 20% left. That should last me 3 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's not an if, it's just when. And we talk. I was just at a meeting before I came here, and we talked about the wind farms. And what is that going to do to the solar industry? It's great for the solar industry because nobody said that the wind is going to be cheaper. They just said it's going to be green. So now when you start to, there's so much happening in the solar industry, both residentially and commercially. I mean, next year we're going to move to this thing called the time of use rate structure.
Okay.
So, right now a Powerwall battery storage is really sexy, cool backup storage. That's all it really is. It's fun. But next year when we go to time of use rate, which is what they have in California, I'm hearing estimates that the power that we pay for at our house is at 21 cents right now, 22 cents, somewhere in there. Prime time between 11 and 5 p.m. is now going to be 35, 36 cents. So now follow me for a second. So now you got these Powerwalls, and now you program them then so that during those peak times, you're on battery power, okay? And then you charge them at night at 21 cents. So now all of a sudden the batteries become a revenue generator. As opposed from a really cool, sexy toy that my neighbor has, it becomes, wow, like solar, this is now paying for itself.
And all the equipment you've already installed will be able to do it this way once that software comes out or whatever it is.
Yeah, and listen, there's a lot of battery companies out there. Much as, Elon Musk is a little bit of a whatever, I mean, I definitely think that he will go down in history as like a Thomas Edison type of person, no question about it. And I think if I remember correctly, reading about Thomas Edison, he was a little bit of a whack.
A little bit.
Also,
yeah.
So, but I mean, how do you take it away from a guy who, lands a spaceship on a barge?
He's brilliant. Everything he says he wants to do, he's doing.
And he backs it up. So we were skeptical of the Tesla Powerwall. We had Gen 1 as it first ran out. I still have it at my office working. It was okay. I mean, it was good to look at, but it didn't have the bells and whistles in the software. This new Powerwall 2, it's really cool. They worked the bugs out, and now it's just supply. They can't build them as fast as we're deploying them. It's funny because my colleagues in California and Hawaii and Idaho, okay, solar is not sold without storage. All right, it's 100% one-to-one. If you buy a solar system, you're buying it with storage. In California, it's about 5, maybe 6 to 1. Here we're probably 1 to 10, 2 to 10. It's just starting to get things. But
when I flew into Montana, I was looking at the industrial buildings and I didn't see solar on the roof, and I just don't get it. We're putting community solar here on this building. We have an entire industrial park here in Hop Hog, second largest industrial park in the country.
Yep.
I mean, why wouldn't a property owner, a building owner, use their roof to generate power cleanly for the community? If it's not for them, we're doing it here to go back through the grid to homeowners at a discounted rate. And it's a revenue generator for us, and it's helping the homeowners in the community.
Yep.
Where's the loss here?
When you figure out that question, the way that you adapted and you saw the value, you let me know and I'll have them all doing it because I can't figure it out. I have it on my building, you have it on your building. I don't understand. Either people are distracted. In this park alone, we could put 20 megawatts. We could be.
What does that mean? What is
20 megawatts?
Power? What would you do?
A megawatt, they say, is equal to 600 homes, which is really not. A standard home is 10,000, so it's about 100 homes, okay? So 20 megawatts would be 2,000 homes. So now in the park, we're doing, the whole, revitalization. We're trying to get, more housing and stuff in here.
They just approved, actually.
Yeah, we could literally power those houses, those apartments, from the rooftops in the park. Listen, there's 20 megawatts of opportunity at least. There's probably more in this park. The combination of community solar, which is where, like in your fashion, where we're deploying panels, and people that can't have solar on their homes are actually buying power. We're managing to get people that can have solar to buy green energy at a discounted from your roof. We're using the grid. It's perfect. So, LIPA just came out with a feed-in tariff called Solar Communities, with a 20 megawatt opportunity for building owners like yourself and stuff to take advantage, have a fixed rate for 20 years, paid from LIPA. You don't even have to deal with the subscribers because they're going to offset it to low and moderate income families. So listen, we're always working towards the same goals. It's just you just gotta it's the right time, the right place. What compels somebody to pull a trigger? Usually right now it's economics. And we've gotten a lot of response from building owners that went through COVID and had zero revenue. And all of a sudden they're saying, wow, you know what? If I had that solar system, at least my rent would have been covered. Oh, okay. All of a sudden, $30,000, $40,000 makes a difference. Where somebody doing hundreds of millions of dollars, 30, 40, it all matters now. For a building like this one, this is a multi-tenant building. You looked at it just the right way. There's 12 tenant spaces in this building, but you have this resource on the roof. Well, it's a 13th tenant. It's a revenue producing tenant. For anybody who owns a building but doesn't occupy it, another perfect example. So you're leasing out square footage. Well, what's wrong with the roof? Why not generate some revenue? The tax credits tax credits went from 30 to 26%. They're scheduled to go to 22%. The depreciation is full maintenance depreciation, 100% depreciated in the first year. I mean, there's no reason to not investigate and do it. If it doesn't make sense, don't do it. But, I've yet to see anybody where it just didn't make sense. You don't need money. Some people that we've done, their roof was in such poor shape. And they said, well, listen, I'll tell you what. You pay for the roof. I don't want any lease payment for the roof. Just give me a brand new roof and put your solar up there. Great. And so we'll do an upfront kind of thing. Nothing fits into one little box, Everybody has different situations. There's tenant occupied units. There's people that have tax appetite, nonprofits. We did that. We did a great job.
So many ways to finance it.
Right,
There's
but
so many ways to get it done.
I've been saying this forever. It's not if, it's just when.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to do it. You'll see communities, listen, out in Southampton, you can't build a house without solar.
It's illegal.
Right. This is part of their initiative. The Hamptons, so what's happening out there is going to move forward. If it moves forward residentially, ultimately, if there's commercial opportunity, it's gonna. I mean, how many buildings have we been involved in where with geothermal makes these are smart. The irony is, how many buildings have you built in the last 10 years? And when you look at the people that have really been on the forefront of energy efficiency, right? Not just the mandatory shit. You're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do that. But guys that really said, well, listen, I'm spending $100 million on a building. If I spend $4 more million, it's going to generate this. Guys that really think about it on the front side, not after they've moved into the building. Look at how successful that mentality, okay? If you look at those businesses, they're freaking thriving.
Of course, it's the long term. They thought of what's happening 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You can't think about just today and penny wise, dollar foolish. Some people do it. Some people see the forest through the trees.
Right. I don't want to. Funny, not a funny story, but one of the largest property owners was Wolkoff, right?
Yeah.
And he just passed. And there's no solar in any of his buildings. Maybe now there will be. There's somebody who has millions and millions of square feet that could take advantage of this. I mean, I always thought about this paradigm of, the Hauppauge Industrial Park is sitting right here. Okay, you have Suffolk University, Suffolk College right here, and then you have the Wolkoff project, the Pilgrims right here. I mean, if you just took the load and the property of the 6,000 units that's going to be built in Brentwood, with all the rooftops here in the industrial park, and then somehow, the ground stuff around Suffolk Community College, you could literally make this microgrid of these three, it would take somebody, a lot of coordination and stuff, but this is where like an Elon Musk guy comes in and goes, I got this. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the money, and I'll put my money behind the mountains, and you'll buy the power from me. That's what's going to happen, man. Life as we know it, I don't think that things are going to remain the same forever.
I think it was definitely a wake-up call. And not to say they're not busting their ass, but this was a little wake-up call right now.
Because I'm so involved with LIPA, I remember like pre-Sandy, I used to go to meetings and stuff like that, and there was always storm preparedness in the budget. Don't forget, I don't want to divest too much from, what we're talking about, but You know, LIPA has, how many people do you think work at LIPA? Take a guess. $3.6 billion budget, right? How many people do you think?
600.
How about 50? 50 people are on staff at LIPA. So LIPA itself, and I know Tom Falcone, I know all these people, LIPA itself is a debt holding company and a construction management company. That's really what they do. Okay? They own the grid. You know, we actually own the grid with LIPA, and they distribute who's going to maintain the grid. Right now it's PSE&G. Before it was Nat Grid, right? There's only 54 people or something like that do all that work. All the billing is done by PSE&G, all the line work and stuff like that. But I remember in the budget, so LIPA's job is to keep rates somewhat reasonable, to deliver the best possible service for the lowest price. That's their job. It doesn't all, listen, there's a lot of taxes, there's a lot of all the other stuff that come into play. But we've maintained, we're expensive, you know, second to, I think, Con Edison is, Hawaii is number 2, and then Hawaii's number 1, I think, for the most costly power. But they've done a reasonably good job of increasing service, maintaining the grid, doing all this stuff. LIPA really has in the last few years. But every year there's always been, you know, storm preparedness for this and $100 million budget for that and all this stuff. And by the time they slice and dice the budget, something's always, well, you know, oh yeah, we don't need this software. That's Wolf. We're going to have to cut that. Then all of a sudden Sandy came and the wolf came to the door and we weren't ready. Okay. But it wasn't because, it was because it was in the budget and taken out, in the budget and taken out. So, you know, it's going to continue to happen until we dig in really deep, and most people don't want to. They'd rather complain about something than fix it. Somebody's either going to come in and say, we're going to install an entire new grid and you're going to buy power from us. I don't, you know, it's going to be a bold move, but until such a time where, you know, you're going to trim a tree and it's going to grow again. And if you looked at the trees that blew over, the balls weren't all that big, you know, at the big bat, you know, it wasn't like trees wiped out 30 feet around them. These are big trees that just plopped over from a semi-windstorm, 70 mile, you know, it wasn't even like really crazy winds. Imagine if that happened after rain or combined with a nor'easter or something like that. So, but, you know, at the end of the day, the grid needs a lot of work. Storage, LIPA is investing a lot of money in backup storage as well. You know, we've made a huge difference. You know, in 18 years, we've deployed, SunNation has deployed something around 65 megawatts across Long Island. That's about 350,000 solar panels.
And how much of that
6,500 jobs. What?
How much of that did Colca do?
You had a good show. You had a lot of rooftops covered panels. So,
Yeah.
not go, what was it they say in what was Kevin Spacey's
I don't know.
House of Cards? He knocks twice. Okay. But you know, there's been a lot of growth. We call it the solar coaster. It's a great business to be in. Challenging right now, you know, like anybody else. You know, we're dealing with COVID brain. It's a real thing. It's a you know, I was talking to a psychiatrist that's a client of mine. She's like, people are nuts. People, you know, have, you know, rightly so. This is a terrible pandemic and people died and it's horrible. But the bouncing back has been slower than anticipated. You just saw, like, it's amazing from the unemployment standpoint. All of a sudden, as soon as the $600 a week ran out, all of a sudden these people came to, now it's down to like 5,000 claims a week or something like that.
The solution can't be worse than the problem. There's a lot of people that are going to have psychological problems from this, depression problems, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's been awful all around.
But how have you, like we adapted immediately to a virtual sales model for residential solar. All right. We didn't have a choice.
We set everybody up virtually. Everybody was ready to go. We gave them the equipment, a little bit of training. This is what we're going to do. Life went on.
Right.
You know, we had projects that went on that were essential. And we brought people back when I think everybody was comfortable to come back. Luckily, you know, we're a tight-knit group, and everybody was like, I want to get back to the office. I can't stand being home anymore. So it was easier for us. We were managing 200 people. a lot more opinions, a lot more emotions go into that. So.
Well, it's funny you mention that because we're down now. We use this opportunity also to reset the company. What we found is that, it's not like we were on a hamster wheel, but you work harder so you can make more money, so you can buy more things, so you can work harder. So this whole this. So it gave us a chance. What I found out very quickly during COVID, during the initial shutdown, is um, people that I thought were leaders were not, and some people that I didn't know had it in them really stepped up to the plate. That was a really cool, like, whoa, look at this, take control kind of stuff. And people that you thought would be, that you could count on 100%, just ran for the hills and stuff like that. I found that we had an opportunity now to look at our processes, okay, and really fine tune them, change things. Say, listen, I don't like the way this is going. We moved to more of a project management kind of processing thing where one person, now a homeowner deals with one person in the company. Once that deal is done, one person takes it home all the way to installation and closeout, as opposed to lots of people doing a lot of. So we looked at we had time to look at process, look at people, make sure the asses were in the right seats for the next wave of growth and stuff like that. So it wasn't all bad that came out of COVID for sure, but I still think that it's like fun. Like when I see somebody in person at the office now that I haven't seen in 4 months, 5 months, I'm like, it gives you some normalcy. Like life is okay. We're back. We're barbecuing in the back of the office. Yeah. This is good stuff. We're very careful. I mean, we shut down well before the governor actually made us. We're very frustrated that we didn't get restarted when we should have. I mean, we should, in my business, maybe 4 weeks, but it's certainly as soon as landscapers were working, okay, we should have been up there on the roofs working. We won't get into the political side of things, but it's just been in 30 years of business, okay, it's the most challenging times, and we're still going through it. It's not like we're out.
It's not over.
It's going to take 2 years for us to financially rebound from everything. Emotionally, listen, one of the coolest things was like even during COVID, we had homeowners that were calling us, listen, just wear masks. We want you at our house. I said, I can't do it. You have to do it. My building permit's expiring. Well, I can't do it. And we got to a point where we're like, we started to lose work because financing commitments expired, and then this guy wasn't sure about whether he's going to have a job to go back to, all that kind of stuff. So it really got, it was tough.
We definitely took it as an opportunity. We definitely implemented some software, virtual stuff, and people are still using it today. We redid the office. Yeah. We sat back and looked at everybody here, and same thing, right people on the bus. So it was the first time that as a business owner I was hit with like 07. Everybody talks about 07. I always heard about 07. I was in high school in 07. I was graduating high school in 07. This was my first, we were hit with it, we got through it, and we grew from it. So yeah. It was a good experience.
It isn't going to be your last.
It won't.
It
won't.
This is a tough one though, because but again, everybody will say we're all in this together, and we're not, man. You were affected very differently, okay, than I was affected, and she was affected differently. Everybody was affected differently. There was almost an arrogance about working from home. Like, I'm not a millennial. I'm a very in your face kind of hands on. Let's have lunch. Let's sort these problems out kind of manager. I do understand that many functions can be done remotely, okay, but many cannot. So we were I almost felt like I was looked down upon for saying, hey guys, listen, we're back up and running. It's time to come back to work. Like, well, no, I'm working from home. Well, listen, I can understand if you have an ailment, if you have a sick child, if you're vulnerable, if any vulnerable, I get it. I'm not going to push that button and stuff like that. But if you don't,
we're coming back to work.
And I made a comment. What it also did, what people aren't realizing is that if you believe that your role can be done remotely, then that means that my hiring pool has now just become international. All right? That's a very powerful statement. If you believe that you can function 100% remotely, then I can rehire somebody from a talent pool now that is not Long Island, is not driving distance, I can now hire from a talent pool across the country. All right? And maybe even more. I've already hired 2 sales guys from California.
Wow.
They're doing, they already had a business model. They came to us and said, hey, listen, we'd love to sell you product here. Great. I have channel partners and interior salespeople, and I have remote, people. But now I have 2 guys in California that know the New York market inside and out, and they, built something out, and they want to apply the things that. So it's a very, be very careful what you wish for, because you may get it. Now, does that also open up the labor pool for you to now apply your trade to a company like a Google? I guess it does. Okay, but that whole being able to come into the boss's office, that whole thing about coming to a barbecue and feeling special because it's your birthday and stuff. If that's important to you, it's a weird world that we're heading into, and I see it, and I'm not afraid to go after it. But all of a sudden, people are changing. The people that would not engage are now engaging more. In my business, I think that people are shopping more. They have a lot of time, on their hands to be more competitive. I love that because I'm never I never want to be the cheapest guy. If you're just price shopping, we'll be competitive, but we're going to add value. If our value isn't worth it to you, great. Go. And then when you're done, call me and I'll service it. Maybe. Right. But other than that, man, everything is. I'm excited about the Hot Dog Industrial Park. It's been a weird, everything here went on pause. But you're starting to see activity, you're starting to see traffic and stuff. It's going to take until after the election. It's going to take until after the kids go back to school. Thank God they're figuring something like that out because that was another big, what do? I lost 2 people in my office that, because their kids are now going to school 3 days a week or something, they couldn't get childcare, and they're full-timers. They can't work on a part-time. Their roles can't be done remotely and stuff like that. I have 2 and 3 year investments in some of these people, and they now have to take, an alternative path, because of the kids at school and stuff. Knock on wood, these kids go back to school and there's no, super spike.
Hopefully for good. They need it.
Yep.
They definitely need it's back to the whole emotional, psychological thing. You need that sense of.
How would you have done learning on a laptop?
It would have been awful.
Right.
I took online courses and I couldn't pay attention. You have the TV on, this person's walking by, this person's doing. I got to be in the room, focused, etc. Don't get me wrong. This is just fine in the virtual world as we knew it during COVID. But I'm also let's get in the room, let's solve the problem. Everybody get their head together. Energy. You
right.
Feel somebody's energy, that positivity. It's important.
Well, you could tell. Poker players call it the tell. Where you're looking at somebody, you're reading their language and stuff like that. And I've often been really worried. My kids have a really good understanding of the spoken word, because they grew up with a father that was very interactive and communicated.
You interacted?
Oh boy. But I was the kind of dad that it wasn't about texting. It wasn't about emailing. If I could talk to you, I would rather talk to you and get through it. So they've mastered that world in today's day.
Everybody sends an email making their job is done.
It's done. And
did you call them? Did you go
follow
to their
up?
Office?
Or wait, isn't it great when somebody sends an email to multiple people, but nobody specifically on who needs to act on this?
Yep.
Okay, well, I didn't know I was supposed to answer. Well, I didn't know I was supposed to answer. And I love that that whole thing. No, be specific. Hey, Donna, I need you to answer this question. I'm CCing everybody else, but I want the answer from you. So my kids have, and I think that the kids today that grown-ups today, younger grown-ups today that can keep that art alive of being able to communicate and get your points across, diffuse situations. You can't diffuse a situation with a text or an email.
Verbal communication, face-to-face interaction is the most important thing to business. If I don't know what you're thinking, if we're not on the same page, if we can't diffuse that issue and it blows out of proportion because you don't get my tone of voice in a text message, like you got to be able to communicate.
In caps.
In caps.
In capital letters. Boldface in capital letters.
Emoji.
Yeah. So, but I think that stems back to exactly what I was saying about the working remotely and the being in the office type thing. I want to see life, man. I want to hear FUs. I want to hear frustration, and I also want to hear, yes. Yeah, like a small win. Yo, when somebody comes in with a deposit check, yo.
Yeah.
So I nailed it. I finally, after 6 months, I finally got this one. That excitement, you want to share that with that kind of stuff. So I'm just hoping life gets a little bit more normal, like soon.
It will.
But again, I think that you came into this. You made a comment about this is your first shot at the rodeo.
Yeah.
So I've been through a few rodeos, but I was having a conversation with a big guy, like a big CEO of like a big energy company and stuff like that, billions and billions, right? And he calls me up. He's like, I'm so jealous. I've always been in the energy industry, but as a CEO, I've never been an entrepreneur. I've never built my own business and stuff like that. You guys just had the privilege of steering your ships through a pandemic, through the most uncharted business times that some of us have ever faced in our life. And I missed that opportunity. I was watching it from afar. I had nothing. I had no wheelhouse to walk into. I had nobody to command. And I said, "You're out of your mind. I know 100 people that would trade places with you in a heartbeat, man. The last thing we wanted to do was go through this shit."
Yeah, but as an entrepreneur, you do love that grind. You do love not the problems, but the solutions. Being able to look at something and get through it. Like, I know you were.
Oh yeah, but it was. You know what? I think that what bothers me is that you have X amount of time. All right. So I can tell you that the last 8 months, since probably December-ish or something like that, there's been no real growth to what I'm the visionary. I'm the guy that's always driving forward, new products, everything now has been about survival. Everything now has been fix problems and I guess you can call that growth because the other side is going out of business. And how many people do we know that didn't survive this, So, I talked to some colleagues and everybody expected growth for 2020, right? Everybody shit canned those whole, projections. And they're looking at just holding on, at the same level as a 30 to 40% win. All right. To me, I don't like, man, when you're investing this much time and this much effort and losing sleep and stuff like that, there's supposed to be an upside. I'm not used to just the status quo. So that's frustrating to me. But what happened? What else are we gonna do, Devin?
No,
you're gonna go open a deli.
You get through this and you grow in a month or two when things get somewhat to normal.
Yeah, you know what? I think that come spring, whatever happens in the election is gonna happen. Okay, nobody's coming out happy. Again, it's the worst.
It's gonna be bad.
That's the
Whoever
worst.
Wins, it's gonna be bad.
Nobody's gonna be happy. If Trump wins, well, it's 4 more years of this nonsense. This guy, I'm moving. Blah, blah, blah. If Biden wins, it's going to be a whole. Then all the Trump people aren't happy. All the business guys, supposedly, I don't really know how it all plays out because I don't think anybody else does. But nobody's coming out of this like united. I remember as a kid, my parents used to tell me about JFK. Okay, that when everybody listened to him speak, it was the United States. Everybody was united. You know,
very
there were different
respectable.
parties, but everybody, there was a commonality that everybody worked with. I haven't seen it in my lifetime. You certainly haven't. If I haven't seen it, you haven't seen
No.
it. And it's just really horrible.
Sad.
It's very sad
It's sad.
that we
The
can't
most
win.
unified I think the country ever was the day after 9/11.
Yeah, that's right. There was no black, there was no white, there was no Democrat, there was no Republican.
And now it's almost like we're forgetting about that. We're, it's it's tough to see.
It's sad, right?
It's tough to see. Scott, thank you as always. I appreciate it. You're the man. Keep doing it.
COVID punch.